Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the what's next on Naoya, Inoue, the now unified super bantamweight champion of the world, following his dominant 8th round TKO victory over previously undefeated Stephen Fulton Jr. to capture the unified title at 122. Now, before we get into that, if you guys could smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I try to build my channel up here. And if you don't like what I'm doing, you could give me a thumbs down. Excuse me. You could give me a thumbs down or leave a comment letting me know why. Now, back to Inoue, you know, he had this was just a fantastic performance out of him to be able to dominate a fighter like Stephen Fulton Jr. with what looked like such ease. I mean, the jab to the body, his combinations, his just timing, it was just, his power just impeccable. He looked great. Huge win to dominate Fulton and stop him like that, and now he's a unified champ. So the big question is what's next, but we pretty much have the answer to that big question. It looks like, you know, for all intents and purposes, it's gonna be Marlon Tapales for the undisputed title at 122 pounds. Tapales was there at the fight. He already got approval from the WBA prior to the fight to go forward with this fight, you know, this undisputed title fight. And now, you know, on later in the year, likely November, December, we're gonna see Inoue and Tapales almost for sure for the undisputed title unless somebody gets hurt. So instead of going a what if on the chances of somebody getting hurt, you know, let's look at what he possibly could do after this fight. You know, and I think the options are limitless, because if he becomes undisputed at 122, does he stay here and defend the title? Does he move up to 126 right away? I've heard that some of the guys on his management team want him to stay at 122. That may be the case. He might stay at 122 and allow some of the other guys to clear up at 126 to get him a better showdown there. But it's hard to say, you know, because there are good fights out there at 126 for him, easily makeable fights too. And right now, I think he's kind of one of the bells of the ball in boxing, to where, you know, like Stephen Fulton, guys are going to cross the street in order to fight him because you're going to make a good amount of money, you know, and he's a huge name, and if you can knock him off, that's going to go a long way for you as a fighter. So let's run through 122, and then let's look at some of the options at 126 as well. So at 122, a rematch with Stephen Fulton's not going to happen. There's no point. Then we already said Marlon Tapales. That's likely what he's doing next. After that, MJ, Marajan Akhmadaliev. I don't believe he'd fight MJ. I really don't, because MJ lost to Tapales. He'd have to earn his way back, and he's not a big name, so I don't see that one. Luis Nery, he's maybe the one guy that he might, outside of maybe Casimero, I think those might be the only two guys that he stays at 122 to defend against. Luis Nery's got a solid name. He had a Fight of the Year candidate, knockout victory over Azaha Vanasian. Luis Nery's right there. Anybody else, I'm having trouble seeing. He's not going to fight Havanasian because he lost to Nery. I don't see him fighting Sam Goodman, who's the IBF's #1, although he is an undefeated Australian fighter. That's not too far away from Japan. That might be an easily makeable fight, and Goodman's coming off of an upset win over Rais Salim. Wouldn't completely roll it out, but I don't think so. Rais Salim's out. I don't see him fighting him. He's coming off the loss to Goodman. Liam Davies, undefeated Englishman on the rise, has looked good, but not on the level right there. And then Inoue Baluta is fighting, you know, some guy named McKeon. Is just not a big name. So I really believe at 122, after Casimero if he stays there. Now, at 126, the options there. Luis Alberto Lopez, the IBF champion. Definitely a possibility. Lopez is fighting Joet Gonzalez in September. He'll come in the favorite in that fight. I think he'll edge Gonzalez in a good slugfest. But he's a top-ranked guy. And I really believe that Inoue and him make a lot of sense. If Inoue wants his first fight immediately for a title, that'd be a good opponent against Lopez. Lee Wood, not likely. Lee Wood is fighting Josh Warrington next. If he beats Josh Warrington, I think Lee Wood's moving up to 130. And if he loses to Warrington, that takes the appeal away for Inoue, so I'm not seeing that one. Mauricio Lara, not likely. Lara's already missed weight, then he lost to Wood. A lot of people are thinking he could be moving to 130. So I don't see him and Inoue being an attractive fight. Brandon Figueroa, definitely a possibility. Reason why, Figueroa is likely going to be fighting Ray Vargas next for the WBC title before the end of the year. If he beats him, he's one of the champions sitting there, and Inoue could give up his belts at 122 and move straight into a title shot. Brandon Figueroa makes a lot of sense. That'd be a banger. It'd be a fight a lot of people would want to see. I could see that fight happening. Ray Vargas. If Ray Vargas beats Brandon Figueroa in their proposed mandatory title fight, he's sitting right there in position for a guy like Inoue. Definitely a possibility, but I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think Vargas is going to beat Figueroa, but he could. Josh Warrington. I don't see it. Warrington, good fighter, but if he beats Lee Wood to become WBA champion, I think the winner of that fight's likely going to 130 to go after Joe Cordina. Because neither guy is going to want to fight the WBA mandatory. So I think Inoue fighting the winner of that fight, I don't think it's going to happen. You don't want to completely rule it out because the WBA might say, hey, for Inoue, we'll allow that fight to happen. But it's going to be far-fetched in my opinion. I don't see it. Robeisy Ramirez. Absolutely think this fight could happen. This is a fight that I think Bob Arum really wants to happen. Robeisy Ramirez is very talented. He's a WBO champion. He just fought on the undercard of Inoue and Fulton. Got a stoppage win in his first title defense. Likely going to come back for the end of the year. And if they're smart, they'll throw him back on the undercard and have him go against that Abe guy from Japan that defeated Kiko Martinez and is now the IBF's top contender right now. If they're smart, they'll let Abe, because he's from Japan, challenge Ramirez. And if Ramirez beats him, Inoue and Ramirez could happen in the first half of next year for the WBO featherweight title for sure. Isaac Dogbe, if he wants to not go after a world title in his first fight, but still get a easily makeable fight against a good name, Dogbe is a good opponent. He can move straight up, go test himself, but I really think Inoue wants to go after the belts. He's at that level. I don't think he wants to settle for a guy like Dogbe, a former champ like that. Then you got Joet Gonzalez. If Joet Gonzalez pulls off the upset and beats Luis Alberto Lopez in September, he's definitely a possibility. I could see that fight happening for sure, but he's got to get through Lopez. I think he's going to lose, but Joet Gonzalez got a ton of heart, and Lopez has the style clash and matchup that Gonzalez could defeat. I wouldn't completely rule it out. So I definitely think it's a possibility if Gonzalez gets by Lopez, but I don't think he's going to, but he could. And then Michael Conlan is the last guy I want to talk about. You don't ever want to rule out a guy like Michael Conlan, but he's kind of lost his allure. He's lost his, attractiveness for the moment. He got knocked out again by Luis Alberto Lopez after being knocked out against Lee Wood last year. Inoue doesn't need to fight a guy like him. So the small group of possibility is if Inoue beats Taples for the end of the year, for his following fight, I think Casimero or Luis Neri at 122 And then at 126, there's Brandon Figueroa, Luis Alberto Lopez, and I think Robeisy Ramirez. I could also see a scenario where he fights a guy at 122, you know, and allows a unification bout to happen between Lopez and Ramirez, as long as they're both champions. So we got to wait and see. A lot of moving pieces. He still hasn't even confirmed a fight with Tapales, but I am expecting that in the next month or so for that to happen so they could build on it. But I'm really excited that Inoue won this fight and is pushing forward with bigger things. So we'll see what happens. That's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next on the newly crowned, undefeated, and unified super bantamweight champion at 122 pounds, the monster, Naoya Inoue, following his victory over Stephen Fulton Jr. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.